So, Pacific Rim fans have finally got something to be excited about again. About flopping time. There's not just one thing either. I'll tell you, there's two. Feels like forever since we had the last piece of Pacific Rim media, like The Black came out all the way back in March 2021, I think it was. And then season 2 was the following April, so that would have been 2022, which makes it like 8 years ago. I'm pretty attached to that for a few reasons. One of them being that it was the first thing that I started to get some traction with on my channel. Yay me! There was also Pacific Rim Blackout, which gave us a conclusion for Herc Hansen's story. That was also in 2022, but it feels like a decade ago. And since then, hasn't been a whole lot to talk about. But now, not only have Variety reported that we have a prequel series in the works, in development with Eric Hazerer. For those of you who don't know, this guy's not just some dude off the street. He's got an Academy Award nomination for writing the excellent Arrival. You know, a movie that you'll probably remember where aliens arrive on Earth and Lois Lane has to learn to communicate with them. You know, a daunting task considering that we can barely communicate with each other anymore. He also did Bird Box, which wasn't that great if I remember right, as well as Shadow and Bone that I haven't seen. Not really my thing, I don't think. But the big news here is that they're developing a prequel series. Prequel, which opens up so many exciting possibilities. Tacit Ronin, K-Day, Tacit Ronin, Romeo Blue, Tacit Ronin. Oh, you mean Tacit Ronin? Cherno Alpha. Now, it'll be interesting to see how closely they stick to the established canon, like we saw with the Monsterverse. But certain things were changed in there when they did the Monarch TV series, and I'm not sure for the better. Like in Godzilla Aftershock, we had this amazing villain, Muto Prime. Once the Apple Plus series came out, left little room for the King of the Mutos. That's what I hear anyway. I still haven't watched the whole of the Monarch series yet. I watched the first couple of eps, figured I'd come back to it when I had more time, and then I could never really summon the enthusiasm. I will watch it at some point though. So the question is, for the Pacific Rim series, will they just take Tales from Year Zero and give us a live-action interpretation of that? Or will they change it altogether? Will it be even live-action even? It feels like it from what I've read, but I haven't seen it explicitly stated anywhere. But just based on what this guy has done in the past, I can't see it being animation. And honestly, it's about time we got something new, because the fan base is still really strong. If this flops, it isn't because the fan base isn't there anymore, it'll be because they messed it up somehow. And I guarantee that the most likely way that they'll mess it up is by doing exactly what Legacy of Monsters supposedly did. You know, after all our screaming about how these things are always overly focused on the human relationships, what the do they go and do? Make it super focused on characters we don't give the remotest iota of about. I understand why they do it, you know. It's these photo-real visual effects that cost the most money. That's the simple fact why we can't have more of them. I get that. But then at least give us people talking about the lore or something, not this girl tracking down her dad's love child or whatever that was. That means nothing to us. It's completely disregarding the audience's reason for switching this thing on in the first place. So I'd honestly be happy to take Tales from Year Zero and Tales from the Drift and expand upon that. But it is very likely to be an ensemble cast, I reckon. I'm hoping that it would focus on Stacker Pentecost or, you know, what's the guy's name? Something Schoenfeld, I think. Jasper Schoenfeld? Yeah, maybe. And showing how they came together in the earliest days of the Jaeger program. Maybe the antics of the Beckett brothers. We know that the breach opening up took everyone by surprise, so it's not like there's much sense in going back and showing loads of stuff before that, because that would end up just being characterization stuff that no one cares about. With the one exception that I can think of being perhaps a visit from the precursors, maybe their reconnaissance of our planet before humankind even existed or something like that. It would definitely be cool to get more of the antiverse in this series, showing their process of evolving their kaiju to be more and more lethal killing machines. I mean, what if we had one of the precursors as a main character and it keeps cutting back to him once in a while, and I don't know, maybe eventually he turns out to be a defector or something. Now that I've just listened to that back, maybe that's ridiculous. I don't know. Damn, I just noticed their army of knife heads right here. Look, if you look at it in really slow motion, that's a shitload of knife heads. Another safe bet is us seeing the Trespasser attack again, its breach being such a pivotal event in the timeline. We did get more detail on this in the Tales from Year Zero comic, but seeing it more fully fleshed out in live action would be awesome. The Trespasser design and its breach event is pretty iconic to the franchise, I feel. So if they change this, I reckon all bets are off, and they could feasibly change anything. Another thing I would demand from this series is Coyote Tango, one of my favorite bot designs, and one that we've only got glimpses of, even in the comics. Also, do we know that Gypsy Danger was the first iteration of Gypsy? Could there be an earlier iteration of the Gypsy line? I mean, there's already a pretty stacked roster. I think a lot of people would like to see Romeo Blue. I think I'm not the only one who likes Tacit Ronin, and there's loads more. Anyway, speaking of the Antiverse, another big reason we have to be optimistic about this franchise is that Legendary Comics have crowdfunded a new comic called Final Breach, which is supposedly going to tie up the epic loose end that this left us with.
They won't need to worry about coming for us, because we're going to come for them.
And finally, take the fight to the precursors. With a bunch of drone Jaegers, I guess? Or is this a flashback? Not sure. Rally's obviously involved, so those of us who needed closure, well, we might be getting it. Let's face it, they'll kill him off, won't they? Just to shut up. Which kaiju is that? Oh my god, look at that. The yellow body markings remind me of Knifehead. Something about the head shape reminds me of the one from the beginning of Pacific Rim Amara, the one that killed their parents. But obviously it can't be either of those. Jake Pentecost is in it too, it looks like, and damn, GYPSY looks angular. She's so chiseled. Do you reckon this is a new iteration of GYPSY? GYPSY is going into war at the end of the day, so like, oh, that's what we need. GYPSY Centurion. Yeah, boy. Oh my god, even better. It's called GYPSY Destroyer. Yeah. So it stands to reason that this would be the most powerful version of GYPSY ever. Could it be the most powerful Jaeger ever? You know what? Let me just read the blurb to you. I should have opened with that. I do apologize. After years of failed attempts to enter the Antiverse, the trans-dimensional realm from which all kaiju emerge, Jake Pentecost and Herman Gottlieb conceive a daring last-ditch plan whose success hinges on finding legendary pilot Raleigh Beckett, the only human being to ever survive behind enemy lines. Living in exile off the grid, Raleigh must choose assured annihilation or confront his past and team up with a new generation to pilot the brand new GYPSY Destroyer, the last Jaeger standing. What? I need to read that again. Wait a second. I can't believe what I've just read. The last Jaeger standing. How the fuck did that happen? Tensions escalate and old wounds reopen as the PPDC finally crosses the breach to confront what lies on the other side. It's time for humanity to meet its true enemy and cancel the apocalypse once and for all. Fuck! Okay, so first thing, they're definitely putting the band back together here, aren't they? You got Raleigh, you got Jake, and you've got Herman and Newt by the looks of things, all in the same comic. It looks like they're trying to tie up all of those loose ends. That's a good thing. Taylor and Haley from The Black, I feel like their story got tied up pretty well at the end of The Black. Although it did occur to me once that I should do a theory video about like what happened to them, because I think you could take it further if you wanted to, although there's no real need to. Yeah, what am I saying? They're not going to be anywhere near this. Get out of here, kids. The big question here, though, is how did GYPSY Destroyer end up being the last Jaeger? Is the war that far gone? It sounds like humanity is on the verge of losing. And I've got to be honest, now that I've read that, my perception of this has changed a little bit. Like, ahead of time, I thought this was going to be army of Jaegers thrown in against army of kaiju. Obliteration ensues. But reading this, it sounds more like a story about a suicide mission. You got to get Raleigh to get through the Antiverse and pull out some last-ditch attempt, like humanity's last hope, basically. That's how it reads, anyway. You know, if this comic is set at the end of the timeline, at the end of the chronology of this whole thing, you could potentially be going up against an army of breachers. And it will be interesting to see if they incorporate elements of the Black in this as well, like, you know, like Breacher, like Apex. Although Apex was supposed to be a one-of-a-kind hybrid, if I remember right. And of course it died, so that's not very likely, I guess. So let's face it, probably not going to be anywhere near this. Get out of here, Apex. So pretty damn exciting, right? One bummer, though, is that you can pre-order it now, but they will ship as they are released. Tentatively in October 2025 for Volume 1, Fall 2026 for Volume 2, and Fall 2027 for Volume 3. That's crazy! One per year for the next 3 years. Is that right? What is going on there? My guess is that this has to tie in somewhere with this new series, and maybe they don't know when it's going to be released, so that's spreading it pretty thin, I've got to say, guys. Anyway, they've also got a bunch of digital artwork and so on, patches and stuff like that. If you want to be a late backer, maybe you can still get those. I don't know, but at this stage, it's got more than double its backing. So what happens to all that extra money, I wonder? Do they just get to keep it? But the fact that it has got double its backing really shows how strong this fan base still is. So a lot to be excited about. Let's keep our fingers crossed, shall we? I'm going to be keeping my eye on the series development for sure, and I'll start planning a bunch of Pacific Rim vids already. Maybe in the run-up, I'll release one on the precursors. You guys already asked for that, I saw. And let me know what else you guys want to see. Alright, just wanted to get a very quick video out there. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you very soon for the next one. Cheers!